Jack! I guess you're booking this. You had questions for me.
Jack O'Hara. Boy, you asked me some interesting questions, my man.
Jack, hey, it's Josh Radner.
Hey there, Jack O'Hara. It's Johnny Damon.
Jack O'Hara, absolutely.
What's up, Jack?
Well, Jack.
You know, those are some good questions, Jack.
Hey, Jack. How you doing,
Hello,
man?
Bob Saget. How's it going, man?
Jackie, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Jack? Listen, man, you know, you asked me a couple questions.
Jack, right?
That's right, man.
Hey, Jack.
Jack O'Hara.
Anybody call you John?
It is another edition of the O Show podcast, live from Las Vegas.
Walk with me, buddy.
I'm a big fan. I've seen a lot of your stuff. I know Kevin has seen a ton of your stuff, is why he wanted to connect the interview as well. But like, just to start off, obviously for people that, you know, are living under a rock and don't know who Bethany Hamilton is, right? Like, how would you describe kind of your upbringing and who you've become as a person through your journey growing up, not only in what you do, but just like in the eyes of the public, in a sense, because not everybody experiences that, even if they are as talented of an athlete as you are.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just start with I was born and raised and still living in Hawaii, and I'm a surfer by trade ever since I was a young girl. My whole family surfs, so that passion started really young. And then I would say I have a very persistent kind of being or nature, like very persistent and willing to like push through pain points, and I'm willing to work through things that most people would think are impossible. And so I think having that nature, and you know, there's a lot of things. I live a life of faith, and I have an awesome family, and so as I was growing up, I started getting really competitive, and I knew that I was going to be one of the best in the world. And then when I lost my arm at 13, it was like, okay, God, that wasn't the plan we had in mind. But I think just having my nature and my faith and hope and just a willingness to try, like that propelled me forward, even when, you know, the closest people to me didn't think it was possible, like my mom, for example, which I think that's just how moms are.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that. So then absolutely. I started surfing with one arm, and then I still ended up reaching a lot of my goals and dreams to become one of the best female surfers in the world. And it was really hard, but really fun. And yeah, now I'm a mother of 3 and married to an awesome man. And I would say I still have the same approach. Like, I've had 3 children and I'm still ripping pretty hard. So that's really fun. And I'm just kind of like, I would say, phasing out of like a professional career, but still competing a little bit for fun. And I did some of the craziest events this last January in my entire career. So that was really fun. And yeah, just kind of like, I just love surfing. So I just want to keep pushing it in my sport, regardless of whether I'm professional or not. Just, I want to surf with my children. So
now be honest, what's more difficult, being a surfer and competing at that level, or being a mother to 3 children?
Micah's trying to jump in on that. Wait, what was the question?
What's more difficult, in a sense, in a humoristic standpoint? What's more difficult, being a competitive surfer at that level, or being a mother of 3 children?
Gosh, I mean, both are mind games.
Yeah.
So I would say definitely being a mother is the most challenging, because you're on all the time. Whereas competitive surfing, you're not on all the time, but you just have to be ready for when your moment comes. So in the sense, like, motherhood is amazing and so fun, but so hard. And but yeah, competitive surfing, trying to be a mother and compete is like next level, like game changer. I remember like in 2020, I was competing in Australia, and I had my 2 at the time, and they were just like, trying to prep for the event was like the most stressful thing. And I know I would have like found my flow and like eventually like figured out what worked, but at that time, before everything shut down, it was just like chaos trying to like mentally feel at peace and like be ready to go. And I have really awesome children that are pretty like well behaved, but still, I think all children just keep you on your toes.
100%. And you talked about, early on how your faith has impacted you through a lot of, hardships in your life as well. So like, take me back, not to like relive it in a sense, but when you are 13 years old, something like that happens to you. And again, you were able to persevere and say, like, I'm going to accomplish all of my dreams. And for the most part, you did, at the highest level that you could do it. At what age was it? Before that, was faith always implemented in your life by your family growing up, or were there certain experiences where it clicked for you?
Yeah, so I definitely had my own faith as a young girl. And, going from like 11, 12, 13, um, I really wanted, like, I sought after, like, I knew I wanted more for my life. I mean, I grew up in the surfing industry. Like, I saw a lot of the dark side of it, and so I knew I wanted more for my life. And I saw some of my favorite surfers just like throw their careers away through the choices that they were making. There was one woman in particular, she was one of the best female surfers I've ever seen at that time. And she went from like, I think she's going to be world champ or like deemed as the best female surfer in the world to like not even surfing and like not even mentally straight. And so I think she was using drugs. And so that was really like crazy to just watch firsthand, like, because I surfed with her a lot and then I saw her just throw her life away. So I was like, I think I was around 11, 12 years old, 13. I saw that happen. I was like, I don't want that.
Right.
I want to be like good in my sport. So, and I want to be thriving in life. And I don't want to be basically like mentally slow and like lose my health and lose my skill set. And so there was like these different influences, but I think my faith in God also showed me like, okay, there's good and evil in the world. And so learning to recognize that at a young age and then just having a pure faith too of like, okay, I trust in you, God, with whatever happens. So when I lost my arm, I was like, okay, that wasn't what I had in mind, God, but I had this crazy sense of peace that like I don't understand where else that could come from. I was like, okay, God's by my side and I don't know what my future looks like, but I was just trusting that he had me where I was supposed to be. And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't an easy season, but I was relatively filled with peace and like an okayness that I'm gonna get through this. And I just like I can't attribute that to anything else. Like I don't know how like I even am in awe of my 13-year-old self. I'm like, how did she just like cruise and stay so calm and like optimistic and like just trusting that it was gonna be okay.
Right. Because you grow up like that's almost probably a lifetime ago to you now. Like looking back, like who is that person? Like where was that mentality? Like there's
Yeah.
because like you're again like in the public eye at a young age. Like not everybody's going through that. You're dealing with all of that attention. Everybody wants to learn your story, how you're able to do the things that you're able to do. Is that obviously faith implemented? Is that tough to go through at a young age with all eyes and all cameras on you, but at the same time knowing like, okay, this is happening for a reason, like there's something much bigger going on, like Jesus has my back in this sense? Like was there ever like any self like doubt or any like nervousness and anxiety there in dealing with all of that?
Yeah, I really I don't like to use this word much, but I really hated being famous.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because it was before social media, but my story went viral. Like it was viral for that time, like world known. And so that was really hard for me, especially my personality. I'm not like, yeah, I want to be like the center of
Right.
attention
Right.
and like shining in front of everyone. Where some people are like naturally born like that and they just love being like the center of the party and they love like socializing all the time. like they energize that way. Whereas for me, it was the opposite. And so that was really hard. But I think I always had this desire to help other people. And so when I lost my arm and then I started surfing again, I started receiving letters in the mail from people all over the world with different stories and different challenges that they're facing. And they're like, if you can surf, I can get back on my board too. Like, not like a surfboard, but like get back on their board. And so I was like, wow, like that's so cool that people are being encouraged. And I was kind of just doing me. I wasn't trying to, put on a show by any means. I just wanted to be in the ocean. I got in the water as soon as I possibly could, which was like a day before the doctor said it was okay. And that was less than a month later. And so it was just really like amazing to hear the stories and the encouragement that people were finding in my story. And so I was just empowered to want to share my story. And so I think as the years went by, I like slowly started to find my ways of coping with it and wanting to like just encourage people. And so I had the heart, maybe not always the desire. So that was like a ebb and flow. And even still to this day, I'm like, I prefer to just like hide in the backyard and play in the garden and then like sneak out and go surf. But I still like, I've learned to embrace it. And I love just being able to encourage young people in particular. But it seems like my story encourages just about every age. Like I get old people writing me all the time being like, okay, I'm going to keep going.
Well, you got to think like, because you're getting like a million different energies coming at you all at once, right? And you got to know which ones are feeding into your passion, like getting letters from whether it be kids or people from older generations, like I'm inspired by your story, like that'll feed into you, that will motivate you to keep going. Like you said, like your heart's there, is the desire there always? It's not going to be like that for anybody,
Yeah.
You get worn out a lot, but like that's, like what energies have you looked at that weren't necessarily like, yeah, I mean that's cool, but whatever, because there's been like biopics and getting into acting and doing all of this other stuff to kind of more so promote the image, promote the brand that is Bethany Hamilton in a sense. Like were there certain things that you didn't, maybe you enjoyed all of it, but were there certain things that you were like, okay, that was maybe a little too much, or like this definitely helped promote my story and that will inspire people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely through the books and films. The films were the most fun. Soul Surfer was really cool to be a part of. It's super hard, and my whole family was involved in that. So being able to share my story initially through that was awesome and really cool. And then fast forward like 8 or 9 years later, we did my documentary Unstoppable, which is more like the action sports, like real life version. And so that was really cool and it turned out super good. And so those have been my favorite ways. And I honestly I actually really like social media. I think it's a really fun way to kind of share your life, but it also has its dark sides too, and I think people have the lack of boundaries and addictions and like get lost in dark spaces there. So but I also feel this like desire to like put something good there and like share, like now I'm sharing a lot of my family life and just trying to encourage people like with mindsets and just to kind of just put some positivity out there. And so I have fun on that space, even though that's pretty exhausting too. But yeah, it's just been really cool to kind of do different sort of mentorship programs too. It started initially, I have a nonprofit called Beautifully Flawed. So we do retreats with women and men with limb difference. So kind of young women and young men. So if anyone listening, if you know anyone, or if you yourself have limb difference, like please check out beautifullyflawed.com because we'd love to have you join in on one of our retreats. And they're very like health oriented. So we do a lot of physical movement, but also learn about nutrition and just mindset and overcoming and just encouraging these different men and women who come in and just are like maybe stuck in a rut.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, it can happen in like a blink of an eye, getting stuck in some of those ruts, right?
Yeah.
Man, like when was what was like not necessarily one of the bigger ones that everybody knows about, but like just like going through the daily routines of being a parent, everyday life, like some of those things that get you down at times, but at the same time, like you're able to build yourself back up. What do you use to remind yourself constantly to build yourself back up when that stuff happens?
Yeah, I guess now I'm 32, and so I've been a mom for about 7.5 years. And the thing that motherhood has taught me is like it all comes back to your mind and how you're approaching each day and like your expectations. And so with having children, like if you have unrealistic expectations set, like no doubt you're going to get like frustrated and disappointed. And if you're not understanding like where they're at and how their minds are working and not able to support them, then it's going to like be hard and conflictual. So I'm like, I still feel like a very young mom and like I'm learning so much. And it's probably changing me more than anything else in my life, in the sense that I think it will make me a better human. And so there's a lot of beauty in that, and it's really fun. And I like I started off in the like our chat was I'm a very persistent person and I want the best for my life and the life of those around me.
Hmm.
And so it's been really challenging in like the most awesome way. And like, I think it's more of like looking at myself and being like, okay, where is that emotion coming from? Or why am I reacting that way? Or why am I not able to keep my cool in this moment?
Yeah.
And so it's been really fun to just be challenged and learn how I can best support my children and my husband. And then I feel that coming out in other, like in my other relationships too, like just having more empathy on the people around me and like trying to understand where they're at. And I've been doing mentorship for teenage girls with their moms. And a lot of these girls are coming in lacking all the confidence in the world, like just shoulders shrugged, like not able to like carry themselves with beauty and poise. And so being able to like, okay, I'm the opposite. I'm like super confident. I go after what I want. And I'm like, okay, how can I understand this girl and where she's coming from and like come alongside of her and just support her and help her to find her beauty, strengths, and confidence back. And so it's weird how working with my children, I feel like it's carrying over into all the relationships I may experience, and it's been just really fun.
Right. And then you learn to like surround yourself with like-minded people who want to preach that exact same thing, and that feeds into the energy too. Like you talk about, being in like Soul Surfer and enjoying all of that. Like there were some like I want to call them like famous, like you said, but like influential people that you got to work with a part of that. Was there any like one specific conversation that you had with anybody that you worked with there that kind of really bled into the mindset that you've been able to develop over these years?
Um, say there was anything super impactful in that journey, but I think it helped to build my confidence to trust myself and trust my gut and just know that, okay, if something doesn't feel right, like work on that and talk about it and figure it out instead of just like letting it run and just thinking, like, I think we can sometimes doubt ourselves and be like, oh, this is just normal, I just gotta like roll with it. But really, if like something feels off, like working on that and like questioning it and trying to just problem solve it. And so that's been something that's been like really key in my life, I think, and I think my faith has influenced that and the people I surround myself with. But I have this natural kind of intuition or gut, and like anytime something doesn't feel right, it usually turns out something was off and it didn't go how I would have hoped it was. So I usually like kind of take ownership of that and be like, okay, well, I didn't like try to problem solve that as I felt it being kind of off. And so kind of adulting up and like taking ownership of the things that don't go right and
Right.
having to like move forward with like, okay, let's own it next time and try to problem solve it.
Right, absolutely. And then you live and you learn almost. Like that's like the simple like status
Exactly.
quo. The last question I have for you, I know you got to go here soon, kind of like in relating to maybe something you wish you could have done differently, maybe not so. I'm not sure. A question I know Kevin wanted to ask you was what was more challenging, quietly surfing, being pregnant at one point, and then versus, stepping back into the water for the first time after the event.
Yeah, I mean, definitely learning to surf with one arm was the most physically challenging thing I've ever done, probably. And it took a lot of patience and persistence and just willingness to like feel uncomfortable. Like it didn't feel good paddling out with one arm. It felt really awkward and uncomfortable and like frustrating to go from like being so invincible in the water to like, oh my gosh, I can barely stand up on my board. But all it took was like one moment of like my surfing high. And I was like, okay, I can do this. And I'm gonna like push until I figure out how. And so over time, I slowly adapted and figured out how to do things differently. And I still had a lot of that skill set ingrained in me, but I had to like figure out how to do it differently. So that was just really fun. And then fast forward to having children and recovering postpartum, that was really hard. And now doing it 3 times, I just have a lot of respect for myself, I guess. And just like, I guess after my third baby in particular, it was just being a little more patient and just not feeling like I have to rush it and like embracing my time with my baby and then knowing that, okay, just be consistent over the next year or two and you'll get your strength back and you'll get your skills back. And so, yeah, I've been surfing pretty good. So it's been feeling just nice. My youngest is now a year and a half. And so, yeah, it feels good to be like back at it and like getting to sneak away for a surf here and there.
I love the fact that you're able to continue your passion, doing what you love in both aspects of your life, professionally, personally. I love how faith is a big aspect of what you're doing behind all the projects and all the opportunities that you've had. So I do want to thank you. Like, thank you so much. I am grateful that you're able to hop on this call today. I will let you go be a mother, go be an entrepreneur, go be an athlete, go be Bethany Hamilton. So I do appreciate you coming on today, Bethany.
Thank you, Jack. Have a good one.
You as
Aloha.
well.